Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the sweet introduction, Shannon. I've been working with Graham & Dunn since I started my company, and that's probably my first piece of advice for people today. Get a good lawyer and write a really solid operating agreement before you really get going with your company. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just sort of my path, where I came from to start my company, and then why I think we've been successful and some things I've learned. I want to try and save at least 15 minutes at the end for questions, because I find that the most interesting part usually. So, okay. This is a really funny picture of me with a terrible haircut in 2003. But what I'm holding is a clipboard to register voters. And I wanted to talk about sort of how I came to deciding to start my own company. And it was from a place of pretty political motivation. So I graduated college in 2001 from the University of Montana. I had put myself through school working in an ice cream shop, but really thought that that shop was going to be just my college job. I actually got fired from that ice cream shop because I was too bossy, and I was trying to do too many things at once, my manager thought. And I think that's a good just sort of lesson learned for me to turn what some people might see as your faults into your strengths. So yeah, I am very bossy, but it's worked out well for me 12 years later. So almost all of my motivations are social and political. I'm a very progressive person. Between 23 and 27, was the executive director of a political organization called Music for America that partnered with bands to register their fans to vote. And we were a national organization. I learned really young how to manage people. I managed a staff of about 26 people during those years in offices in Seattle, San Francisco, and New York, and in 13 swing states in 2004. So much of what I did is what you see me doing in this photo, which is, that's at the time the owner of Chop Suey, the club on Capitol Hill. I was at concerts registering voters. And for the first year and a half that I was doing that, we hadn't made smoking illegal in bars in Seattle yet. So I was really sacrificing my lungs for the goodness of democracy. After 3.5 years of running Music for America and realizing that being the executive director of a nonprofit, no matter how much you believe in it and how much fun the work is mostly about asking rich people for money. And running a nonprofit is so much about fundraising that it really wore me down. And I was whining to my mom on the phone in the fall of 2006. Democrats had just taken back Congress. It was a great midterm election. Young voters had turned out at higher numbers than they ever had in a midterm election before. And I was feeling like I'd accomplished something in my political goals and aspirations, but really sick of fundraising. And I was whining to my mom about all of this, and I was saying, what am I going to do with my life next if I don't keep doing this? And she said, why don't you just open an ice cream shop and be your own boss, and you can get as political as you want. Look at Ben and Jerry. And you won't have to listen to anybody else, and you can raise money one more time, just to start your business. Aren't moms so smart? I'm about to be a mom in about 3 months, so I'm very excited about that. Thanks. So this was my past life. So I raised money from a small pool of investors, friends and family, or no family, but friends. Actually, like half of my investors were ex-boyfriends, which was really funny. So ex-boyfriends and friends. And I opened the Wallingford shop in the fall of 2008. And this is opening day. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? So my big advice about this photo is hire a publicist. I didn't advertise at all, but I just really put all of my energy into PR. The other thing that I think created this line, I can look at this line and I probably know about a quarter to a third of the people in that line. And the line stretched around 2 corners of the block the day we opened at 3 p.m. The other thing I'll say about building that line and creating that buzz that I think was a huge reason that we've been successful even 4.5 years later, was every single person I've met since I had a cell phone, and I think I got my first cell phone in 2001, I have put their number and as much contact information about them as I can gather in my phone, no matter who they are, whether I think they're important at the time or not. And so now, my contact list in my phone that I've transferred since that very first tiny little flip phone, it's probably like 2,500 or 3,000 people. And when I opened Wallingford, I emailed and texted every single person I'd ever met and said, come support me, I'm opening an ice cream shop. So, track your network and then ask them to do things for you when you are launching something. I think that was really important. So Wallingford opened in the spring of 2008, and I wanted to found my business based on my values. And I think when you're starting a company, if it's not authentically based on what you believe in, you're not going to be successful. So, and I think also, especially in a place like Seattle, but I think more and more in the whole country, people vote with their dollars, and I think a huge reason that people buy my ice cream, in addition to it being good, and in addition to the experience, I think, being really fun in the shops, people know that their $3.45 for a single scoop is paying for all compostable products, local and organic ingredients. The person handing you the cone has paid sick leave, so she's not sick when she's handing you that cone, which is totally disgusting. She's got health insurance that I pay 100% of the premium for, so she's never worried about going to the doctor. And I think she's happy, and she's probably been there a long time because we have really low turnover because I have such great benefits that she knows what she's doing. And I think all of those kind of my values-based decisions have ended up just making a really great customer service interaction, and I think they really connect us to our customers and our guests, and people know when they're coming into our shops that they're, supporting a business that, for the most part, shares their values. I might be a little more of a socialist than most of our customers. In 2009, I opened our Capitol Hill shop. Basically, within 5 or 6 months of Wallingford being open, I had enough cash in the bank after one summer to almost build a second shop. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I opened Capitol Hill the next summer, and the next summer I opened the Truck, which has been a disaster. And I wouldn't recommend opening a food truck to anyone. But it's been really fun. It's a great marketing tool. The following summer, I opened 3 ice cream shops. One in Madrona, which is adorable. It's only 70 square feet. But that is actually my most profitable shop as a percent of sales. Downtown, which is no longer open, and I can answer questions about this if people want to. I did a licensee shop. So I didn't sign a lease and build out a whole shop. I partnered with another business called the Chocolate Box that was owned by a local couple, and I licensed my brand to them, and they sold my ice cream for about a year. And then they decided they wanted to not be in such a big space, and so I lost the shop, which sucked because that shop was also really profitable. And I arranged a sweet licensee deal where they assumed all the operational risk, and I just charged them money for tubs of ice cream. So I made I think I spent $17,000, and I'm happy to be transparent and talk about money. I think that's really important when you're trying to figure out how it all works. I think I spent $17,000 to build out this little shop and on the signage. and I made $100,000 in profit in my first summer. So I was really sad to see this one go. This is the Queen Anne shop, and that was the third shop of the summer last year. And it has been a slower build. I've definitely learned a lot of lessons about this shop. I think the location lesson has been dialed into my head a little more because of the shop. I think I got a little bit like sassy, thinking that my brand was so special that people would come off the beaten path for it. And this shop is on Gaylor, on the top of Queen Anne, by Top Pot and Via Tribunali and Trader Joe's, like down that street. And it's not on the main drag, and people did not know we opened. Even though I marketed it like I market all the other shops, that neighborhood really took a long time to figure out that we were there. So I learned a lot with this shop. Gosh, was this last summer? No, this was this summer. So this spring, April 2012, I released the book, 70 recipes of ice cream, sorbets, and toppings. And this has been a really fun project. Not nearly as profitable as owning a retail ice cream shop, but great for our brand, and has led to a partnership that I'm pretty excited about. Next May, I will be introducing 13 products at every Sur La Table store in the nation. And they carried my book this year and sponsored the book tour, and I've just started a really great relationship with Sur La Table. So Sur La Table has 102 stores in the country, and they're building 10 a year for the next 10 years. And we're really gonna be kind of like the face of ice cream at Sur La Table. So that'll be pretty exciting. This is just a photo of my team. Look at all those cute kids. So I have about 60 employees now, 4.5 years in. I take them out on a yacht at the end of the summer every year to thank them for their hard work. So this was this year's yacht party. That picture down below is our one of our lavender farms in Squim, where we get all of our lavender. And I just put the community there because I think my goal for starting Molly Moons was really to be a multi-generational community gathering place. Like, that's what I think is important in keeping us relevant and like sustainably, dependably there in our communities, is that ice cream is for everybody. 1-year-olds, 91-year-olds, they all have ice cream. You can go gather with your neighborhood or your community, no matter your age, and that's why it's America's favorite dessert. And so I think that's why it's easy to be successful in ice cream. And I will say it's easy. Like, I've super lucked out. So I don't know that I have any tricks for people who want to start other businesses, because I would just say ice cream is really awesome. Yeah, I think that's kind of the story. Oh, this is funny. I don't know how many of you, I sent the video to the organizers of this conference, but this hip hop group, Brothers from Another, with the guy on the left is Gio from Blue Scholars, and the Physics, they wrote a song about, a hip hop song about Molly Moon's ice cream this summer. And it was on the top 10 hip hop charts in the Northwest. And they did a really great music video. And I really felt this year, in our 4th year of business, that like we're culturally relevant, and we're gonna be culturally relevant in Seattle for a long time. And that just makes me, little things like that make me excited that like we'll be sustainably successful, that Molly Moons isn't a fad or a trend. And I know that ice cream isn't a fad or a trend, but I feel like sometimes people think our company is really trendy. So little things like this, I'm like, I didn't even know these kids. They wrote this song, and they emailed it to me in April, and they were like, this song is just about how there's nothing better than taking a nice girl to a Molly Moon's shop on a hot Seattle summer day. It's like heart. So yeah, okay, that's the end. That's my short story of what has happened in the last 4.5 years, with a couple of lessons. But I would much rather answer questions about what you all are curious about our company and what I might have learned. So opening it up. Okay, startup capital. I worked on a business plan for about 7 months. I was super careful about that, so I wasn't willy-nilly. I managed Dow Constantine's campaign for re-election in 2007, which was not hard, because he's a great candidate. And so I worked on my business plan more than I think I worked on his campaign that year. And so I learned a lot about what it took to all the startup costs and all the possible pitfalls. And the number I came out with was $220,000. So that's what I raised. I asked for a third of it from the major donor who had been funding my political nonprofit for the last 3.5 years. And he's kind of a mentor to me, and he's a Silicon Valley tech venture capitalist, but he believed that I was going to start a company with political integrity, and he was a huge political donor. And then, like I said, the rest, I guess one of the guys I hadn't slept with, but the rest were ex-boyfriends. And one of them is now my husband. And friends. Other questions? Yeah.
My kids love the froyo thing because it's hands-on, they can serve their own and do their own toppings. I mean, do you see that? Is that a threat to the kind of the ice cream truck business model? Is that something you're responding to?
Remember TCBY? Where are TCBYs now?
I didn't have kids then. I have kids now.
Yeah, when I was a kid, TCBY was totally novel. And then it went away. Ice cream's been America's favorite dessert for over 100 years. I am not threatened by frozen yogurt. What other questions do you have? Yeah.
With a product like ice cream that is very seasonal, how do you sort of handle that, and what advice do you have for other products that would be very seasonal?
Yeah, seasonality is huge. So her question was, with a product that's so seasonal, how do you handle the seasonality? So when just Wallingford was open, I was able to be profitable every month but December. December is the slowest month of the year for ice cream. But now that I have overhead staff, I have 5 people, including myself, who sit in an office and don't work in a shop. And our overhead is much higher than it was. To manage having 4, 5, 6, I'm hoping to open 2 more shops next year. I'm only profitable May through September. And then that cash has to last the rest of the winter and have leftovers to build new shops. So I handle it just with good cash flow spreadsheets and just watching the dollars and scheduling. Really, for a customer service-based industry, it's a lot about just scheduling really well. And there are a lot of tactics that I've learned over the years about scheduling. And maybe some of you have noticed that the lines at Molly Moon's have gotten shorter and moved faster in the last summer than they did the summer before. But that takes time to figure out how to schedule people and how to spend money on labor at the right times of year. I don't know that I have a lot of other advice other than cash flow projecting is just super important. And if you're going to be super seasonal, getting a line of credit as soon as you can. I have never had a line of credit, and I just got one, and I'm pretty thankful because December is always our most gnarly month, and it's coming up, and it's definitely the most angsty time of the year. And so if you can get a little line and have a little cushion, that's great. Yeah. Lessons learned on food trucks. I think really a great idea to start a food truck if you want to buy yourself a job. Because if you want to be in that food truck and interacting with the customers and really buy yourself a place to go and have fun all day, awesome. A food truck will work and you will make a cute little salary. When I got used to a couple of ice cream shops that make 20, 25% profit margin, and how to run those, and then I added the truck, and the truck makes like maybe 1% profit margin, it just wasn't worth it to me. And I was just on a panel at UW about food truck entrepreneurialism, which was really interesting because like the Verace pizza guy, he makes great money running his mobile pizza ovens. But I was on the panel, and the guy who owns Skillet was on the panel, and his name is Josh, and Josh and I were both like, don't do it. So I think there are varied experiences, but I think if you want to buy yourself a great job that is fulfilling and you're your own boss, a food truck is a great way to start. But it's not like a huge moneymaker on its own that I think can multiply, like well-executed brick and mortar retail locations can. Yeah? Will I make pints for grocery stores? Probably not ever. To me, my product is about the experience, and it's special. And also, I make a lot more money in my shops than I do in a grocery store. So I think there's a lot of good ice cream you can find in grocery stores. And if that's where you want to get your ice cream, then great. It probably won't make sense for me. I would so much rather build more shops and create more community gathering places, because that's what's motivating to me. Like I have really no desire to be the Howard Schultz of ice cream. I'd much rather be, when I was writing my business plan, does anybody in this room know who Linda Dershang is? Entrepreneur to watch in Seattle. She's like the most under the radar woman in this city. She owns Linda's Tavern, King's Hardware, Oddfellows Cafe, Smith. She started Chop Suey, the Baltic Room, the Capitol Club. The woman does almost $10 million a year in sales, and like no one has heard of her. She's amazing. She helped me on my business plan. You all should seek her out. No, don't. She'll kill me. But I'd much rather be someone like Linda than Howard. I mean, she has like 175 employees. She knows them all. She makes a great living and has an awesome lifestyle and is really connected to the way that her business is impacting her community. She's got a beautiful apartment in New York. That's kind of all I want. Yakima? I'd open a shop in Yakima. I've thought about it. That could be a possibility. Yeah?
Hi. You started by saying that one of the most important things was your legal team.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that sounds like that's cart before the horse, and I wondered what your experience is or why that was your journey.
Okay, so the question was, why did you start with such a strong legal team? It feels a little bit cart before the horsey. So not. So you have to have a really strong legal agreement, a really well-planned LLC agreement, especially if you're gonna use anybody else's money, and outline all of the possible, if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. I worked with an awesome attorney who's now actually one of my best girlfriends from Graham and Den to start writing my LLC agreement and just thinking through, and my mentor, gave me the advice, like think through and have your attorney think through every possible thing that could go wrong, basically, and all the things that could go right, and how you'll handle that. So an example, my LLC agreement is set up that my investors get 90% of my profits and I get 10, and I pay myself a salary until they receive 110% of what they put in, a preferred return. That is so motivating for me. And then when they get 110% of what they put in, then I get my pro rata share, which is 50% of the company. And I just outlined that their cash was worth half of startup, and my sweat equity and intellectual property was worth half. I also did things like, here are the 16 major decisions that you all can vote on. Everything else is up to me. And then once I've paid you back, here are the 3 decisions that you all can vote on. Everything else is up to me. And at this point, they have like no power. And if I hadn't written a strong agreement from the beginning, now that they see how successful this company is, because a lot of them just gave me money because they were nice. And it like seemed like an okay idea. But I know a few of my investors, if they had been able to predict this future, they would not have given me the decision-making power at this point. So I don't think it's cart before the horse at all. I think it's super important. Did you have a question? Yeah. Yeah. So her question is about brand partnerships and like how you figure out whether or not to say yes or no to them. And specifically a partnership we did with Trophy Cupcakes. So basically, the woman who owns Trophy Cupcakes is really nice, and we're kind of friends because we both own shops in Wallingford. And she really wanted to do some sort of cupcakes and ice cream thing. And at the same time, that downtown shop that I'm really sad about losing, Cupcake Royale bought that lease and started making ice cream, partially because that owner saw my P&L from that shop. So Trophy got their like feisty, cupcake war thing going on. And the owner of Trophy, really wanted to do something. I basically said yes to that partnership because I knew it wouldn't hurt my brand, because I like that brand and I think our brands have enough similarities. And I didn't want to offend Jen. So a lot of it is just sort of like personal decisions sometimes. But I set that part, I didn't think it would work. I don't think that when you order a $40 box of cupcakes, you're also going to buy $20 worth of ice cream. Most people aren't. So I was very cautious about that, and I set that partnership up so that Jen and Trophy assumed all the risk. I told her I wouldn't pay for the cupcakes that didn't sell in my shops. So she spent a lot of money delivering cupcakes to my shops all the time, and I didn't pay for them, and customers didn't buy them. So I think my overall advice about brand partnerships are, if you have a lot of confidence in your own brand, don't do them. Like, be your own person, I don't do them a lot because I think it clouds the message, and also I'm so political that like it's hard for me to align myself with anyone else because I almost never agree with their politics. Like, business owners in general are usually more conservative than me, and like if I find out that you don't have a good health insurance plan for your employees, I don't want to be associated with you. So I think protect your own brand integrity is really important, and I don't see a ton of value in it. I think if you're starting up and you want to align with a company that has a great brand and values that you believe in, that can work sometimes, but also like, why can't you stand on your own 2 feet? Would be my question as a consumer. Yeah. Pros and cons of being a single founder. Yeah. I actually was considering taking on a business partner. I was working for a little while in a city councilwoman's office just while I was kind of having political odd jobs while I was writing my business plan. I worked in a city councilwoman's office for like 6 weeks. And there was a woman in that office who thought my idea was great, and she had an MBA. And she was like, I want to be your business partner. And so I started having coffee with her once a week, and she did help me on my business plan, actually, a bit. And I said, well, let's just go down the path and do the math. And if you're interested in going down the path and looking at, how the business plan all shakes out, because I didn't know. When I was writing in 100% of the health insurance premiums and all compostable products, I kind of had this hunch that the bottom line of my business plan might be red numbers. And I just sort of said, if there's enough money in this after we've really well researched it for 2 salaries, then we can talk about it. And basically there wasn't in my conservative business plan that I wrote for Wallingford. And so I had to say to her, I don't think that this is going to work out. And she was bummed, and I ended up writing her like a $5,000 check for time spent. I'm so, so, so thankful that I don't have a business partner. And that's part of that. This goes back to my mom's, conversation on the phone with me. I don't like anybody telling me what to do. I'm like a terribly disobedient person and really anti-authoritarian. And I can't imagine having to make I don't even let my husband make many decisions. It would be impossible. A business partnership is worse than a marriage, I think, because you're not getting any of the benefits, but you have to run something by someone else all the time? No. I think if you have enough confidence that you can do it yourself, do it yourself. Yeah. I can't hear you, sorry. Why ice cream?
And did you consider anything else?
Because I knew how to run an ice cream shop. Like that conversation where I was whining to my mom on the phone, she just basically said, why don't you open an ice cream shop? And it was just kind of a no-brainer because I knew how to run an ice cream shop. The shop I had worked at in college is called the Big Dipper. And I had scooped ice cream, I'd made the ice cream, I'd managed the schedule. I sort of knew all the workings. Ice cream, in terms of the food industry, I think it's got to be the most profitable food industry to be in because there's no spoilage. A restaurant throws a ton of food out. I don't ever throw anything out because it's frozen. And we just make enough that we'll go through it within a week, but if we don't go through it within a week, if we sell it the next week, it was still just frozen, I know that's not a complicated answer, but yeah.
So on the manufacturing, I don't live in the area, so I'm not familiar with it, but
Yeah.
how did you scale your manufacturing? Is it separate from your stores, or is it in your store? Do you work with a processor? Do you own your own facility? How do you manufacture?
So the question is around my ice cream manufacturing and scalability. So each shop makes its own ice cream. Because I love, in Wallingford, if you're eating a scoop of ice cream, it was made in Wallingford. In Capitol Hill, if you're eating a scoop of ice cream, it was made in Capitol Hill. And each shop, in fact, has a little window that's about this high for kids to see the spout of the ice cream machine and where the ice cream comes out. And I wanted it to be that sort of farm to table, cow to cone thing where people were seeing what they're getting, and I think that's important. And it's great to be transparent in food. And it's been pretty scalable. So I work with a dairy partner who pasteurizes the sugar into the milk and cream, who I just absolutely adore. And we've got a great partnership, and he delivers bags of that milk, cream, and sugar mix to each store. And I do pay a little bit for that delivery, but it is so convenient. And then that means that I get to hire real pastry chefs in each shop to make really good ice cream in each shop with fresh ingredients. And I think that just pays off in how the ice cream tastes. And I'm hoping that that'll be really scalable that we can just continue to build shops that all have their own kitchens, and we buy all the milk and cream comes from one dairy right now that's up in Linden, which is kind of far away from me. For me, that's like 3.5 hours from here. But I'm hoping that we're working with our dairy partner to be able to buy a tanker truck, dairy truck, so we can buy from smaller farms that are smaller family farms, try and keep them in business much closer to Seattle, like in the Duval and Monroe area. There are a bunch of little farms that I want to buy from. And we're probably a year away from being able to do that. And then I think it'll be really sustainable because we can just, and scalable, we can just keep buying that milk, processing it in Maltby, driving it around to the different shops in Seattle or as we expand outside of Seattle. My dream is to have 3 ice cream shops in Hawaii. I don't know how that's going to work just yet, but I have some time to figure it out. Oh, last question. Yeah. Oh, my cute logo. That's my dog. And you know what? It's her birthday today. That's Parker Posey. She's half French Bulldog, half Boston Terrier. She's 6 today. And I just knew from the start that I wanted my logo to be a really adorable puppy face licking ice cream. It's worked out. Thank you all so much.